Amanda here from createyourfuture.co. So today's video is about, should I take action in the 3D? Yeah, it's a very valid question because, we say no one to change but self and to do all this work in the 4D, but when do we take action in the 3D? Yeah, I'm going to explain a little bit about that, hopefully more than a little bit, enough for you to understand when you should take action and when you shouldn't, because, it's really all about what you personally think and your beliefs are about the given subject or players in the subject matter that you're dealing with. So just before we dive into it, guys, we do have a free course, how to find your blocks, to create, create anything fast. Oh my goodness, has it been a while? Anyway, the link is in the description, as well as I do have a course, how to how to manifest the relationship that you love, right? So yeah, that link is in the description for that, as well as we're having a lot of sales. But guys, you know what? You don't need to buy our courses or sign up for coaching with us. We give absolutely everything away in our videos. So you just need to watch our videos and you can put it all together and figure it out and be incredibly successful. But if you would like the extra help, or you do like doing courses, like I like getting a pen and piece of paper out and, doing a course on something to help me focus, and yeah, I'd done coaching for years way back when, and I found it quite enjoyable and it kept me on track and held me accountable. But, that's personal preference, right? So if you want it, we have it. If you don't, we still give everything away for free. So yeah, let's dive into it. Okay, so when to take action, when not to take action. So I'm actually going to tell you a little story. And this video was actually inspired, recently, somebody that was, law of assumption, person that does law, like practices law of assumption and is aware of it, asked me, why did you hire a lawyer, Amanda? Like, you do, everyone's you pushed out, how to change your thoughts. Why would you take action in the 3D like that? And so I'm going to start with a success story, and then we're going to talk about, when, and what actions to take in the 3D and when you can and when you maybe shouldn't. Okay. So one of my success story is I remember I lived in this apartment building, and in this apartment, the roof leaked, okay? And it leaked so bad that the dining room was actually it wasn't even just soggy. It was an actual puddle and had turned into a lake. It was the entire dining room. And I remember calling the landlord and being like, hey, you know what? This is really bad, I need to move, or you guys need to fix this. And they're like, nope, you can't move without giving us a month's notice, and you're not going to get your damage deposit back because of the damage. I'm like, damage isn't my fault, and I was intending they would change their mind, and they wouldn't, because obviously I had a story that this rental company was really bad. And so that was fine. So I ended up moving basically in the middle of the night and bailing on the place. And, of course they wanted to keep my damage deposit, and I didn't want that. So I actually went to what we have in Canada called RTB, Residential Tenancy Branch. I think maybe it's just my province specific. But anyway, I went there, filed a claim, and had my story going. I'm going to file a claim with the residential tenancy branch, and it's basically a mediator, a third party that mediates between the landlord and the tenant, and makes a decision on the case. So it's got a neutral third party that makes a decision. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this because I can't seem to get the landlord to change, okay, with all my intentions and all my affirmations and all my thoughts of trying to recreate them. This is painful. I can't live here anymore. I don't want to lose my damage deposit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create this story that I'm going to go to this RTB. I'm going to file a claim. This neutral mediator is going to side with me, and I'm going to win. And that's exactly what happened. Okay. So, and the reason why I say this, is because, I know there's a lot of people out there, because Andrew's actually a lawyer, and he does family law. He does divorces and stuff. And, and when I look at it from the law of assumption point of view, where I hear people say, well, you know what, if you know law of assumption, why not just change your story? Why take action in the 3D? Like, you're going through a divorce and you're trying to get custody of your child. Well, why even bother? Just intend that you've got a good relationship with the dad, or intend you get full custody, without using a lawyer. But the thing is, right, is sometimes it's easier for someone to say, you know what, I'm going through this divorce and I want custody of my child, or I want 50-50 or whatever you want and say, I'm going to get a lawyer and the lawyer is going to get that for me, or we're going to go to court and the judge is going to side in my favor. Sometimes creating that story, that person, that neutral third party person is going to work in your favor rather than trying to recreate the person itself, the one that you have an issue with. Okay. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking action in the 3D and, and not just sitting home and recreating, yourself. It's like, for instance, okay, you know what, my appendix was infected and it needed to come out for surgery. I mean, I didn't see it as a failure on my part by not curing myself with my thoughts. Hell no, I went to the hospital. Okay, this is my 3D. I've created everything in it. That doctor, that hospital was put there by me. So, you know what? I need to get this appendix out. Was it a failure that I marched down to emergency and said, hey, doc, take it out and had a surgery? No, I manifested that to happen. Okay. And the one thing that gets me upset is when people are sick and they are like, well, you know what? I want to manifest good health on my own. I don't want any help from any drugs. And if I don't do it that way, I'm a failure. And it's like, dude, it's your reality. You created the antibiotics. You created the Tylenol. You created all of it. It's all there. You can use it. Now, I mean, if you want to create and heal yourself with your thoughts, that's fine. But don't, I urge and I caution against saying, look if I don't heal my headache with my thoughts, then I'm a failure and I don't know how to create. But if I take, the Tylenol, I'm a failure. It's like, no, you know what I do? They don't even know how Tylenol works. Okay. It's a placebo. So I just take it and I'm like, I take this Tylenol and my head goes away. I talked to a pharmaceutical rep and she was telling me they don't even know how Tylenol works. Well, nobody needs to know how it works. We think it works, so it works, right? So, now, when should you take action and when shouldn't you take action? I know that, this is really what we want to know. So like, for instance, the relationship talk. When should you go and have the relationship talk? Okay, so I've actually had it where, my boyfriend has broken up with me. We had a huge fight and they wanted to leave me. And I sat down and said, hey, we need to talk about our relationship, and it's worked and we've gotten back together. I've also had it where I've had the relationship talk with somebody, and you guys all know this because it was Andrew when I wanted him to move in with me. And I said, why don't you want to move in with me? And that relationship talk ended up pushing him away and we almost broke up. So what was the difference between those two relationship talks? The difference was my thoughts behind it. Okay. So when the relationship talk worked with the boyfriend that I'd basically broken up with and we got back together, when I confronted him and had the relationship talk, that worked because I'm like, okay, if I sit down and talk about our relationship, it's going to work. I believed wholeheartedly that was going to work. Okay. So why didn't it work with Andrew? Well, I was wanting to know why he didn't want to move in with me, why he didn't want a commitment with me. So I'm coming from, he doesn't want this. My other relationship talk, I was coming from, he wants to be with me and we need to talk it out and I need to confront this. So, for instance, me going to the residential tenancy branch to recoup my damage deposit and all this, what was taking the action in the 3D, that was coming from an inspired place of, if I take this action, I'm going to get what I want because I can't change my story there. I don't want to change my story there. That's too tough to change my story there. Basically, right? And let me just paint a little bit more of a picture of that. I was living in an apartment with a huge freaking lake in there. So much so I was scared ducks were going to come in the window and like paddle around in it. Like it was huge. And, and I was miserable and I was facing my 3D every day with so-and-so saying, no, no, no. And I was like, okay, you know what? I need to get away from this 3D and I need to take action. I feel like these people are unreasonable. If I get a neutral third party in, I'm going to win. And that's exactly what happened. So what I'm saying is take action where you believe your action that you're taking is going to get you what you want. Okay. So taking action in the 3D, but your 4D story always has to be in line with it. Your 4D has to be in line with it. Okay. You can't go, oh, well, you know what? There's nothing I'm going to be able to do. I'm never going to get my damage deposit back from that landlord. Nobody can do anything. Okay. With that story, the mediator wasn't going to help. My story was that mediator was going to make a judgment in my favor. But if I'm sitting there going, okay, no one's going to change their mind, I'm never going to win this, I'm never going to get that back, then even going to the mediator isn't going to help. Same if you're, in the middle of a separation or a divorce and you're, looking for custody or like whatever, support payments or whatever. If your story is lawyer's going to get it, judge is going to side in my favor, that's what's going to happen. If your story is, no, I'm never going to beat them, they're always going to get what they want, I'm never going to get, what I want in this, no matter what, then, getting a lawyer and the judge isn't going to help. You know what I mean? So your story has to be, your 4D story has to be in line with your 3D actions, okay? For you to be successful and really create that firework, because, that's where things line up. That's when magic happens, okay? And I believe that that's inspired action. Now, trust me, I've had action that I thought was inspired and went and took it and it blew up in my face. And that's because it wasn't like I may have felt inspired to do it, but my story wasn't there in the 4D. Like I was still obviously had too many beliefs the other way, right? And you know what? Even if you do that, it's fine. Don't worry about it. None of this is real, right? All this is made up in quantum bubble, right? So everyone's you pushed out. You just do it again. You just reset, do it again. I mean, some of my most biggest successes have been, trial and error, but just getting up, dusting myself off and doing it again and doing it again. And, metaphorically speaking, I've walked into many walls over and over and over again before I got it right, but that's fine. I never gave up. And so I eventually did get it right. Right. You can never fail if you don't give up. Right. So, don't beat yourself up if something doesn't happen your way. When you think, okay, maybe my thoughts are in line, I'm going to have the relationship talk and then it goes sideways. Okay, that's fine. Back up the train. Sorry, didn't mean to do this, so like, for instance, in my relationship talk with Andrew in the 3D, it didn't go well. He's like, should I leave? Are we breaking up? And then I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry. No, I like what we have. Don't worry about it. If you're not ready for a commitment, it's fine. And I had to back it up in the 3D, right, with him right then and there to bring him back to the page where we were, even though it's not what I wanted. But, obviously I hadn't changed my story enough to get what I wanted at that point, and confronting him wasn't going to get me there. So, instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, I just backed it up. Right. So, I mean, yeah, if you're sick, go get those medicines. You want to get perfect eyes, go for the laser eye surgery. You've created everything in this reality, doctors, laser eye surgery, antibiotics, Tylenol. You've created it all. All of it is your creation. So you can use it. And manifesting perfect eyesight by getting LASIK eye surgery is not a failure. It does not mean you do not know how to manifest. You do know how to manifest. You manifested a surgeon that was willing and able to see you and do an excellent surgery. And you know what? Manifested that you get it for free. Your medical covers it or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I think holding ourselves up to the standard where, we have to suffer and we have to do it in the 4D, this one particular way, isn't always the way that it works, right? So, I remember, years ago, and this was actually a pretty sad story. There was these people, like my fiance at the time was in the hospital. He had a brain tumor, and there was somebody else in the room. I remember his name. His name was John. Rest his soul, but he had a brain tumor, and he actually had cancer and astrocytoma tumor, something like that. Anyway, his family was very religious, and his friends, and he was as well. And they believed in God and only God. And they refused treatment because, they said, we'll pray to God. And if it's God's will, then the tumor will shrink on its own. And unfortunately, he did pass away. And it's, he could have had the surgery. Do you know what I mean? And, when I think about that to this day, it's like, sure, you know what? I can refuse and say, sorry, doc, I'm just going to use my thoughts to get rid of this, like, swollen appendicitis that's about to burst. Like, let me just go meditate on this for a weekend. Or, yeah, you can take it out, please. Because I manifested him. I manifested a perfect surgery. I manifest getting the help I needed, right? It reminds me of that joke. You guys remember the joke? The gist of it is the guy's, I think, on an island or something, and he's stranded and he's praying to God to get him off the island. And, the helicopter comes and says, hey, do you need a ride? I'm here to save you. And he's like, no, thank you. God's going to save me. Then all of a sudden a boat comes and they're like, hey, buddy, are you stranded? You need a ride? Oh, no, don't worry. God will save me. And then there was like something else that came, I don't know, a plane or something. And he was like, oh, no, God will save me. And then all of a sudden he passes away, goes to heaven, and he gets up to the pearly gates. And the guy goes, God, where were you? Why did you forsaken me? And God was like, I sent you a helicopter. I sent you a boat. I sent you a plane. And you refused them all. What do you want me to do? Right. So, remember, everything in your reality it is created by you, and using any of it is never, ever, ever a failure. Never, and it doesn't mean that you don't know how to create. And, when you match your 4D thoughts with your 3D actions, boom, you have a great recipe for success. Okay. So yeah, but don't get me wrong. I mean, you can do everything in the 4D, and change people, and, have a great divorce, or get your landlord to do whatever, and not have to, use lawyers or third parties or mediation groups or anything like that. But if you do, it's not a failure. It doesn't mean you don't know how to manifest. You're manifesting all the time with every single thought that you have. Okay. So, the moral of this story is, if you are having a problem, with a divorce or something, and you need, a third party to come in and mediate it, that's why you manifested them. That's why you invented them. Right. So don't suffer, take the path of least resistance to get what you want, because there's no shame in that. And it's only the path of least resistance because you have a stronger belief it's going to happen that way. Okay. So it doesn't mean you're a failure. That just means you're smart and efficient. You know what I mean? So yeah. Anyways, that's my video for today. I intend that helps everybody to give a little bit more clarity to this. And yeah, guys, stay positive, love each other, treat each other well, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.